Hey there everyone, welcome back to another impressions video, and today we're going to be looking at Shin Megami Tensei 4 Final. Um, if any of you watched my previous Shin Megami Tensei impressions video, you'll realize that this is probably going to be long. Um, I'll say right now, this is like just the first, gonna be the first part, I guess, because I've only been through the game once, and with the last game also, I went through it 4 times, and this one I think I have to go through it 4 times, maybe five, possibly five. I'm not sure yet, but I'll do that, and we'll see if I feel like doing another video. But this one will be for now all I'm gonna do. So it might be long, probably will be long. But anyway, Shin Megami Tensei 4 Final. This is sort of a sequel to Shin Megami Tensei 4. The naming is pretty bad, I think. I imagine that when you see this, like, people will look at it and think like, "Oh, it's a version with all the DLC, or it's like a complete version of the original game." And it's not that. It's like Shin Megami Tensei 4 2, basically. Um, it continues the story of Shin Megami Tensei 4, sort of. Um, I don't even know how to really classify the game because it's not exactly a continuation of the story. It sort of is, but not really. Because if you played through Shin Megami Tensei 4, no matter what ending you got, it's not in this game. Um, it just doesn't happen. There's no end from 4 in that crosses over into this. There is sort of an end that crosses over partially though. And if you went through the first game, Shin Megami Tensei 4, and you played through on the neutral route, this game actually starts during the neutral route. So, yeah, spoilers if you haven't played Shin Megami Tensei 4, but in the neutral route, there's a point where like you're kind of going to fight both the law and chaos sides. You're gonna fight both of them, and then you're gonna, you know, do your neutral route thing. The game starts at that point where you're going to fight both sides. So that's the thing. But if you'll remember in the ending of that, there's an actual ending. In this game, like, it basically just gets rid of that. It just basically, oh, that neutral ending, that never happened. Um, because this game starts during that. The characters from the previous game are in this game. Like, lots of areas are the same. There's the same maps for some places, and same kinds of stuff going on in each thing. So if you're going into this expecting like a completely new game, it's not exactly. It's not really that new because it does reuse a lot of assets. The map is the same. The world map is pretty much the same. The demons you can get in the game are different. They're different. They're really different actually because um, there are a lot of different demons you can get in the game, but there are also different art for the same demons. There's if you remember in the review I did previously of this game, I was talking about how much I disliked the well, Medusa. The Medusa was like my least favorite new demon art. It was so bad. And in this game, you have to fight the Medusa again. But the Medusa comes back with new art. And the new art for the Medusa is actually pretty good. So when you go into it, I thought like, oh, I'm going to have to see this stupid Medusa again. Why did they bring that back? And I think they like brought it back. This is not. I don't have any inside information, but I imagine they brought it back, the Medusa, entirely to right the wrong of the previous bad art. Um, because that all of the other new art, though, it was done by Tokusatsu monster designers. I don't know if the Medusa was too, but that art doesn't show back up, except for Melkavar and um, damn it, Lucifer. So those two, the new art for those show up in Final, but all the other new art, the ones that you had, don't show up again. So probably they don't have the licensed rights for those that art anymore, which is it's fine. But they do add a bunch of new demons. I'm not sure how many. I didn't like go through and count and compare. That's too much work that I'm not going to do. But there are new ones. There's new skills, and they changed around a lot of stuff. I have some notes here. I'm going to try to not forget some stuff, but um, let's see. So I just talked about the that it starts in a neutral route, and let's see the. Oh, let's talk about how the game starts because I have that written down in my notes that like it kind of starts a little bit similar to SMT1 and then also 2. So in SMT1 you start out and you kind of wake up in this dream. You don't wake up, you're in the dream basically and you're kind of talking to random people. And that doesn't actually happen, but in this game you start out in the dream and there are these kind of dream sequences that happen um, throughout the game that kind of reminded me of SMT1, but it starts out like SMT2 in that like you're in this kind of city area that you're kind of locked into for a while before you can go out into the main world, and it's kind of like acts as the kind of tutorial section. It's a lot like that. I want to say that the music in the towns is SMT2 music remixed. Um, if it's not, it's music I've heard before from some other game, but I'm pretty sure it's SMT2's town music remix for the town music that you start off with this. Which, and like it's very similar in the sense that like you go into it's the town has the kind of same basic setup. It's not the same shape. That would have been awesome, but it's it has like the same kind of thing. There's a couple of shops and lots of rooms where you can go in and talk to people. It's the same basic setup, and I like that. Like the previous game, it's really quite faithful to the way SMT 1 and 2 are in terms of like the towns and how things work. Not the overworld map, also not the dungeons because they were previously first person dungeon crawlers, but now it's third person. But even then, it's not incredibly different. It still feels really faithful to the original games. And Final does a lot of things that are kind of cool. It changed some things. That's what I wanted to talk about because there are changes to the systems of the game, the basic systems of the game that make how you play and how you fuse demons different. It's not drastically different, but when you have, for example, in the previous games, you could in the previous game, the one that this is a sequel to, SMT4, when you learned new skills, you would get you could get like some skill +1, +2, up to +9. And in this game, like the demons start out with a kind of plus or minus to their skills depending on the types of it's kind of like affinities they have for certain types of magic. So each demon has its own kind of like set of affinities. So if you want to take like a Jack Frost and give him fire magic, he's going to suck at it. It's either going to cost more MP or it's going to do less damage. It's going to be some kind of negative effect for him using it because he's not adept with fire magic. Um, and it kind of adds another kind of layer to how you're fusing demons. Like if you're going through and for example, say you're using, you want a demon that's like hardcore physical demon, does like all types of physical attacks, has charge and goes through with like some kind of, like armor penetrating attacks and stuff like that. It's useful to have that, but like you can't really select any old demon to put that on. Previously you could. It wouldn't really matter. As long as you could get the skills on that character, you're good. In this one, if you pick a character that has like a -5 physical attacks, it's going to be not so hot for you. That character is going to suck. Even if he has all the best skills, his use of those skills is going to be less than stellar, and it's probably going to cost you more than it would other characters, which makes you have to think a bit more. It adds an extra layer of complexity to how the demons are fused and how things work. And I enjoyed that. I don't know if other people will, but it's an interesting kind of extra layer that you have to think about now that when you start fusing demons. So let's see. Talked about that. There's some old bosses that show up. Um, there are bosses. Obviously, there's bosses in the game, and some of them are bosses you fought before, and some of them are not. So there's a lot of different kind of things where you'll go to places and you'll be like, "Am I gonna have to fight the same boss again from four?" And it will be the same boss, but it'll still be different. Like the Medusa was an example, and there's a story reason why the Medusa is back after it was killed in four. Um, I'm not gonna spoil any of the story parts, so I won't tell you the reason. But there's an actual reason, so it's not just like, and there's new art, so it's not like they even reuse the character art. The area is reused, but it's the same city, so it kind of makes sense. Um, let's see. Demon fusing is easier. Uh, it's definitely easier because adds the kind of feature to purchase demons like in groups. You can kind of purchase. You can search for demons to fuse, and then buy all of the demons you need for that demon all at once instead of having to buy them separately. Um, and it's been so long since I played 4. I don't remember if you could do that, but I'm seeming to remember that you couldn't. Um, in previous games, you definitely couldn't. But in this one, it's a lot easier. Like you can really the search function in the I don't know what the English name for the fusion house is, whatever it is. But whatever it is, it's a really easy and really kind of a versatile tool to find things you want to fuse or summon or whatever. And I think they did a really good job with it. I mean, it's really easy, but it also makes you. It almost made me not be salty about not getting the demon fusion chart that used to come in all the games. Um, I'm sure that that chart is still in the digital manual, but I did not look at it, not even once. And if I had a physical manual, I'd use that chart all the time. But it's not easy to go into the digital manual on the DS because you have to stop the game. You can't like search and play at the same time, so it's not very handy. But that's always a thing. I think I'll always complain about that from now until forever, um, unless they start giving the demon fusion chart again. That would be cool. But yeah, I wanted to talk about. Okay, there are a lot of things about this game that are the same, but there's a lot of things that are different. So, like I said, the map is the same, basically the same. The places aren't all the same. There are different places you can go, and some places are totally different. Um, there's also so there's some similar. I mean, recognizable maps. If you played the previous game, you'll recognize the maps for the overworld map. If you're familiar with Tokyo, you recognize the map immediately because it's the Tokyo map. But if you're not familiar with Tokyo, the map is the same as the previous game if you played that. Um, but it's also there are a few new areas, and sometimes like the areas that were important as parts of the story and in the previous game are not accessible. You can't enter these areas. Um, I'm trying to think of what else there is. There's okay. There are reused assets. A lot of reused assets. So there are reused dungeons, but they're not always the same. So items are in different places sometimes, and obviously the demons that are in the dungeons are different. And as I mentioned before, the demons are different in the sense that their levels are really different. So some things that used to be really low level demons are really high level demons now. And like an angel, it's in most games it's like a level 10 demon or 10 to 20 in that range. In this game it's like a 70 something. And like Pixie too is like really high level in this game for some reason. Um I don't know. They always do that. In each of these games they shuffle around the demon levels. But in this one, it's shuffled even more than even from the previous game, even though it's a continuation. I don't mind that. I don't care. It doesn't really bother me at all. and I just thought it was interesting that a lot of the previously weak demons, like the low level demons, are high level demons now. That's a thing. Not the Frost brothers though. They're the Jack Bros. They're all still pretty low level, so you can get in on that if you want to try Jack Brothers challenge. Not that there's anything really to challenge in this game with the Jack Brothers. There's not exactly like a battle in this game that's like the Beelzebub battle from the previous game, where it was kind of like a side quest that was against a really hard boss. Um, I don't think that doesn't exist in this. There's not any really hard bosses. That makes me want to talk about the kind of difficulty of this game. Now, I played my first playthrough on just on normal, so I mean, I'm not saying like I played through on hard. So, but usually an SMT game, like it's generally like okay on normal, but this game is like not it's not hard on the normal setting. Um, and I think a lot of that has to do with how easy it is to level. Like I think you level up so quickly in this game. By the end of my first playthrough was level 99, like before I even got to the final dungeon. And that's not like I was grinding. There's like if you have to grind in this game, you're just doing it wrong. There's no way you have to grind in this game because you get experience so quickly. And if you ever try to level up demons, like you're not grinding for levels, but you're grinding to level up demons to get skills, like you're basically going to have too much experience for whatever section you're in. If you're just getting demons, like not even to level them up for them to do the whisper event to give you skills. If you're just getting demons, you're going to have too much experience from doing battles. Um, you could probably go through this game like skipping most of the random battles, just running away from everything, and you'd probably be okay because you get experience so quickly, and there's also other ways to gain levels. So it ends up being like pretty easy. I never felt like, oh, I'm too under leveled for this, or like, oh, this was a tough battle. And a lot of the times I was like I'd fight bosses and I'd think like, that was, that couldn't possibly be the end. There has to be like another form or something, because something's got to come, because like, that was way too easy. And that seems to happen in this game where like, you get into a battle and you'll just be like, was that seriously the battle? Was that it? Because even towards the end, it was still like that. You have to fight. Oh, I'm not. Oh, I won't spoil it. Okay, I won't spoil it. But there's a point where you have to fight like previous bosses from the game, like in a row. Um, but it's not anywhere near as hard. Like, um, it's that kind of thing where I think like the amount of experience you get, so the kind of quick leveling combined with probably a lower difficulty overall of the game makes it pretty easy for the most part. There were almost no bosses that gave me trouble. Like even on, it's my first playthrough. I didn't, there's not really a guide or anything. You just kind of go through it, but you show up to the boss and like a lot of times you would have to guess like what are they immune to, what are they not immune to, and you're just kind of randomly going at it hoping you get it right. But even in this game, like a lot of the time you would go through and even if you got it wrong, you'd still be okay, because their health level and the amount of damage you could do is like not even close. There were bosses I beat in 2 turns, like on my first try. That never happens in these kinds of games. It's really rare. But if I guess if you kind of figure out how to use the battle system, it's kind of easy to do a truckload of damage, where you can do like 5,000-6,000 points of damage in one attack, and a boss will typically have about 10,000 points hit points or so. It's the kind of thing where you're just even the bigger bosses of the game, like the final bosses of the game, don't have much more than 10 to 20,000. So and when you can do like 5 or 6 in one attack, it's not going to make your boss battles really that hard. And I guess it could be difficult if you don't like think about how the game system works. Like if you're just kind of casually going through and you're just like, I like this guy because he looks cool and I think this is kind of neat, you might have trouble with it. I don't know, but like I had zero trouble with this, and like I want to say the game took me about. I mean, I can check. I think it took me about 80 hours. Um, I'll check my save file. I, it might have took no, it took 70 hours. Okay, 70 hours for the 70 hours to beat the game, and I think a lot of that time, a lot of the 70 hours, probably 20 of it is just me screwing around fusing demons. Um, that's less time than the previous game, for sure. Definitely, it took me more time than that in the previous game. And again, like in the previous game, I still spent a lot of time fusing demons. That's like I just enjoy doing that. I enjoy kind of like making a party that's super customized to how I want to do a battle. And if you do that, if you're into it, you can wreck this game. So not difficult. The problem with it that is that like I think they have kind of made the game easier to I don't know attract more people, make it more palatable to people who aren't I don't know kind of crazy about the doing the fusing or just aren't willing to kind of put in the work to fuse things. It's I don't know. I guess like that's what the hard difficulty is for it, but um, the problem with that is like I'm playing through it again. I started a second playthrough already, and the uh, I don't know. I mean it's on the hardest setting now on the second playthrough, but there's not a hardest setting. Like when you go through the game, there's three settings for three settings that are hard. Basically it's like the hard setting, the harder setting, and the hardest setting. But the hard, harder, and hardest, like hard and harder, are definitely not hard. So at least comparatively not hard. Now I didn't. I know a lot of people think of SMT3 on the PS2 as like a hard game, and I didn't think that one was that hard either. But it's definitely harder than this one. So, but because in this one, like I want to, I could count the amount of bosses that I had trouble with, or like had to even think about in like a more than cursory type of way, like probably on one hand, like it would be, it would be hard pressed to name any boss that I think like, well, that was really difficult, because I don't think there are any. It's just not a thing. That's kind of too bad. Where was I? What was I talking about before I got sidetracked about the difficulty? This game has a lot of stuff going on, and I wanted to talk about uh, some of the stuff that's different. So, of course, you have your kind of battle applications from the previous game, but there's a bunch of new ones in this one, a bunch of different ones, and they changed around some stuff too. So beyond the battle applications, skills have been changed. Some of them have been changed greatly, like really, really changed. Like they're not the same skill anymore, basically. And a lot of the things rely on the kind of smirk. I think that's what it is in English. This kind of little green icon you get in your corner when you do something awesome or whatever. When you have that going on, it's kind of a there's a lot of skills that now rely on that. So like you have to use that with that mark in your with the smirk kind of thing going. It some skills will gain special abilities, and so like skills that were really strong in the previous game, like Anticton, are not as strong as they were because of that. Because a lot of times, like in this game, like Anticton, it will do, it does almighty damage, but in this game, if you're smirking, it will also do the same effect as randomizer. So it'll -1 to all skills of the enemy. Otherwise, it just does damage, and it doesn't do that much. It's been kind of nerfed because it was it was kind of beastly in the previous one. If you're interested in seeing the power of Antictone, you can check out the Jack Bros challenge I did with the three Jack brothers and fighting Beelzebub. It's somewhere on my channel. I think if you just type in SMT4 Jack Bros challenge, my video is in there. But basically, I just used Jack Bros and Anticton and just destroyed Beelzebub. Um, so basically, what you're doing here with what they did here is that they changed around a lot of stuff. So the biggest change actually is that the Hama and Mudo skills, the white magic and black magic skills, are totally different. You can't have it's really really hard to get a total party kill with a like an errant Mudo spell. It's just not going to happen, because now those two, the light and dark magic, are treated similar to all the other types of magic in that they're not an instant kill or nothing. They do damage like the other skills, except when you have the kind of the smirk mark, it will kill things. So it's been like greatly weakened. In the previous games, all of the previous games, like those skills, Hama and Mudo, would kill stuff. Just like you hit something with it, if it gets hit, it's dead. That's it. And that applied to your party too. So if a demon cast that, like a Mahamudo, it would kill your entire party. It could kill you and your entire party in just one random skill. People hated that. They really hated that. I didn't hate that. I thought it was like a kind of a good thing because it makes you have to plan around that kind of eventuality. But now that it's just gone, it just counts as another type of damage spell with dark and light magic, in the same way that the kind of fire or ice spells would be that way. It's pretty similar to that. So you've got no it's really different. There's a lot of stuff that's also different. Stuff like luster candy and randomizer are. I'm not sure the exact number, but I'm pretty sure they're a lot more expensive MP wise in the game than in the previous games. I'm not sure if in this one. I don't remember if in SMT4 like physical skills took away HP instead of MP. But in this game, everything takes away MP. There's nothing that takes away HP for skills. I don't. I know in previous games, definitely physical skills took away HP instead of MP. But this is all MP in this one, so that's a thing. It's I think it's kind of a bad idea to do that, because if you have something like a Titan or something, they have no magic powers. They have no magic power, but they have a ton of hit points. It makes sense that they'd have to use their hit points to use their physical skills, because that's what they're built for. But I don't know. It's been changed. I don't remember if that was also in 4, and if it was, I probably complained about it there too. There's lots of stuff that's different. I want to say that you're better off playing this game as a magic character, especially now that the light and dark magic has been changed, because there's so many things that you're going to have to like be attacking with those different skills, that it's more worthwhile for you to take those for yourself and use your demons for other stuff. And a lot of stuff is kind of immune to physical. So if you're like playing as a physical character, like a strength based character, it's probably going to be rough in some parts, I guess. I mean, I always play every game as a magic character. In basically any RPG, if I have the option to make my own character, I'll play as a magic based character for everything. So that goes for SMT. That goes not SMT 1 and 2. I don't think it was helpful to be a magic based character, But like in SMP4, I was a magic-based character. In Dark Souls, I'm always a magic-based character. It's always something magic-based because, as I mentioned before, I could probably swing a sword at somebody's head in real life. I can't throw a fireball at them, and that's what makes it cool. Um, I think this overall, I want to say the game is fun. It's fun. It's more of the previous game. It does do some things better. I think it does kind of streamline a bit, but it also makes that kind of gives you some extra layers on top of that that make it more fun. It does add some kind of bonus things to make the overall experience better for the game. I mean, it's not reinventing the wheel here. If you played four, you'll be able to jump right into this with like a few modifications. It's not it's not incredibly hard. The game itself, it actually does give you bonus stuff in the beginning of the game, depending on if you have a save file from the previous game. So if you have SMT4 save files on your 3DS, you can load them in at the beginning of the game, and you'll get bonuses depending on how much stuff you did in the previous game. So if you, I don't know what the bonuses are for all the other ones because I loaded my save where I cleared everything. So I had the everything clear, and you get a bunch of stuff. You get like a bunch of application points and like 3 free levels of level up books, those books that give you a full level, and you get like a bunch of you know items that are helpful for playing the game, like healing stuff and maybe chakras and stuff. I'm not really sure, but I got a bunch of stuff from having the full save file. So if you have a full save file, not one where you made a save and went back to the decision point, but like one where you actually played through the full game 4 times, you get a ton of stuff. I'm not sure what you get for 1 time or 2 times or no times just having save data at all. I'm sure you get something though. But so that was good. I mean, I didn't even use those level up books on my character. I was thinking like, oh, I'll just save them till the end when I get to like level 90 something, and then I won't have to like slog through the huge amount of experience you'll need to get to level 99. But I never even had to use them because like I said, like I wasn't even close to the end of the game when I was level 99. So there's that. I want to say that the demons you can summon in this game are changed, and sometimes for the better, and sometimes for the worse. Like I have a kind of a set party that I like to use in these kinds of games for the higher level demons. Like I usually will use um, Mara and Beelzebub and Metatron as my party. In almost all the games, that's who I'll use at the end because they're always high level. But in this one, like by the time you get to the place where you can unlock Beelzebub, like he's like 15 levels below where your demons are. He's not useful. Like you can't use him towards the end of the game. Um, and also, I don't think there was a Metatron. You fight Metatron, but I never found the option to unlock him in the compendium. I beat him. He's like one of the he's like a random mob in the game. Like he's not even he's sort of a boss, but also he just shows up a million times over and over again. So, but you there's not actually an option. You can't talk to him and have him join your party, and there's not a fusion option for him even after you beat him. So I don't know if you can. Maybe it was just something I didn't do, or it's only in the second playthrough. Maybe that's a possibility because there are demons you can only unlock in the second playthrough, like Melkavar and Lucifer. But yeah, going through it, it's like pretty interesting that the amount of stuff in the game is it's probably better than the previous game. There's probably more. I'd say there's more, but it's also it might be the same amount because there's some stuff minus. There's stuff that's not there, and I want to say there's less areas. There's probably less dungeons. Now that I think about it, if only because you don't have to do a lot of the kind of final dungeons from the previous game, even though you do have to fight Melkavar and Lucifer. Um, you don't have to do their dungeons from the previous game. They're um, there's like a story reason why you don't, but it's not. I don't know. It's really strange. There's also a thing in the story wise overall, like that's maybe a worse change for the game. This was it's not horrible, but it kind of takes a little bit out of the kind of choice system for the game. So if you played SMT4, you'll realize that like you have all these conversations throughout the game where you talk to people and you'll make these decisions, and it kind of like there's like an invisible meter for your like chaos and law and neutrality, I guess. So in some cases, for example, like you'll go through the game and you'll get to a point where there's a decision, and you have to like and the story will split between like law and chaos and neutral. And depending on your answers in the previous game, you wouldn't be able to select some routes. Like if you were a character that like made law choices throughout the entire game, and then you got to that thing and you're like, I just want to see the chaos ending, so I'll pick that. You couldn't do it in the previous game. It's just not a possibility. You don't have the option because your kind of law meter is too far into law, so you can't just suddenly switch to chaos. But in this game, it's much more classic. Um, just like here's a random selection point. No matter what you did before, you can select anything you want. Please do. I think that is kind of a step away from what makes the previous games interesting to play. The reason like I wanted to play through all of the routes in the previous game, why it was like exciting to do that was because you had to make different choices. It was like a necessity, or you couldn't select the route you wanted. So, but in this one, and like I mentioned, there's four endings, and I've only played through once so far, but there might be more than that. But there's like a clear split between your law and law and good ending, and it's like totally hinges on like one or two answers that you have to give. It doesn't take into account anything you've done previous to that, and it's a really clear when it's going to happen. And then like you can go into the neutral route, and there's like two neutral routes. So there's kind of like a we're all together neutral route, and there's like kind of a like a fuck you all, I'm going off on my own route. And there's possibly a fifth route. I don't really know, but there might be a route where you can do something else. Like in the previous game, there was a route where you could just go into nothing. You could just kind of give up, I guess. And that might be a route, but I don't know where the selection for that would be. It wasn't really clear, but it seems like there would be something, and it might be really early in the game. I don't even know. But there are the kinds of things where this is kind of a step back, I'd say, if only because it means that the choices that you make in the game are not really important. They don't do anything. And a lot of the reason for that is kind of story related too. I mean, it makes sense in the story, but it doesn't make sense in the terms of like all of the previous games. So, I mean, a lot of the story doesn't like quite make sense because it's using all this previous characters. Like you can't. I mean, there are essentially in the game there's like two messiahs. It doesn't make any sense, but like that's the thing. So when you're playing it, you feel like for the first half of the game, you feel like, oh well, Flynn is the Messiah doing his Messiah things like he was in the previous game, and he's off doing that stuff, and everybody's talking about him, how great he is. You go around the game, and everyone is like, "Oh, Flynn is awesome," and then Flynn shows up, and he shows you how awesome he is, and you're just kind of like, "Oh, well, what the hell am I doing? I'm just like this dude running around doing these things that are like totally unrelated." And then the second half of the game is like, "Well, I'm totally better than Flynn. Why the hell is he hanging out? Like, what is he? He's not even doing anything." And you're like, And then at the end, there's like this kind of weird like team up, and that's it's not really a story spoiler, um, because it's kind of from the beginning, but there is like this weird double battle that goes on where you get like two entirely different parties to use for the same battle. Um, that's a thing. I don't know. It's a pretty interesting battle actually. It's the best battle in the game. It's also the last battle. Um, but other than that, it always feels like a little weird to have Flynn in the game. He doesn't. I mean, he's kind of out of commission for a bunch of the time, and you have characters from the other games show up too. Like you have this kind of party system going on with. If you ever played like previous games, you would have like another human in your party. I mean, it was in SMT4 also, where you had like your kind of third person, but like, or your second person, I guess. Like you could select who is coming with you, and they would occasionally like attack or do something. In this, it's like kind of changed. Now you have like a whole party of people with you, so you'll have like up to 7 people with you, maybe, and you only can select one. So it's this kind of similar in the sense that like you'll have one selected who can attack, will attack every round and do something. At the end of the round, they'll do something, and depending on which person it is, they'll do some different types of things. Some will use items, some will do healing, some will do like some kind of magic or physical attacks. You've got like all these different types of characters. Um, and it's a pretty good system actually, because you have like this party of people, and eventually you have like this kind of help meter. It's like your secondary character meter, and as you use those characters every round, it builds up by bar until like you get a full meter where all of the characters that are in your kind of second party will do like this group attack and kind of reset the turn. So it's like it's super overpowered against bosses. When you like, for example, there's bosses you can beat in one turn if you have the meter pre-full when you go into the battle, because you'll go in and you'll get 4 attacks, like a full round of attacks, and if you can hit the sweet spot and get like a kind of eight full attacks in your round, and then have the party thing go off where they'll all attack and give you another round of attacks, so you could potentially get 16 attacks plus all the character attacks in one round. And if you're doing like thousands of points of damage per attack, you're gonna be killing everything. And that's kind of how the it's a good system. It's fun, but the partner system in kind of like coordination with like a really good party setup, and the kind of comparatively low hit points compared to the comparatively high damage you can do for these games at least. Um, it's it's like it leads to this situation where you can easily just blow through bosses, like, um, and I think that's probably not so hot. It's not the best thing you could do for the game, but it's not ever awful. Like I never felt like, oh Jesus, this is so easy. I can just like put it on auto battle. You can never put this game on auto battle, but the if you have like a set plan, that's good. Like don't expect to be incredibly challenged by almost any boss. And the party system also makes it like way harder to to lose. And there's lots of times where like like the previous game, you'll get asked questions. The boss will start talking at you and asking you questions or something, and depending on your answer, it'll have some kind of effect. And lots of times the effect is like it'll raise your party meter by half. So like it'll fill up halfway, or like 50%. So it'll add 50% to the bar. And lots of times, like if you can get into those, you can if you time it correctly, you can get like a crazy amount of attacks going where you can like get the party question out, and then like use your full party attack and get the question again for the party, and you'll be halfway full. So like it's the kind of thing where like even on a tough boss, if you have it set up with that, like you can set up that party system and just like charge everybody, concentrate, send out, and spend an entire round concentrating with everybody, and then the party thing will kick in, and you can, you know, hop in with your double damage attacks that will probably be smirked because when they do the party attack, like lots of times the entire party will also get a smirk, and you'll see that you'll be doing like thousands and thousands of points of damage with stuff because it's so, you know, you've kind of gamed the system there. It's kind of how it works. It's just I think the new systems are cool, but they're not incredibly well thought out in terms of like the impact on the difficulty of the game. Like if you could do that in the previous game, it would have made a lot of things even more easy. Um, and it just does that. That I think it's not adjusted well, considering like the party system. And like there's some characters in the party that doesn't ever work on bosses, but like that like have um, like insta kill attacks. So like you'll have a character that just shows up and insta kills like an entire battle for you. Like they'll show up before you get an attack and insta kill a monster, and you'll go through the round and not kill anything, and that character will come out again at the end and insta kill, and you'll just like clear an entire battle that way. And it works all the way to the end of the game. So it's not something that like you can use early and then like it stops being effective. It's just always effective. And like sometimes you get those big groups of monsters that show up. It's like an entire like group that you're fighting as one monster. Like the insta kill character can insta kill the entire group with one shot. So it makes like sometimes like you'll get those and you'll get the entire group will show up and it'll be insta killed in one shot, but another one will come and then you can kill it in one round and another one will come and then you'll get like 100,000 experience or something, and everyone will go up a level and a half or two levels sometimes. It's just like it's not made. Um, it's not like I think it's not adjusted well for like the kind of bonus damage and skills you can get from the party, and also from like the having well thought out demons with their kind of affinities. Um, trying to think of what else I can say about this. Music is good, character design is good, and the characters all have kind of a storyline for themselves. So there's like a bunch of development for each character. It's not as interesting to me in these games. The character development in these games are not that interesting to me. Like I don't play SMT the main series for character development because I think the overall game itself is bigger than like character progression. It's much more like large scale kind of concepts than it is like something like Persona is all about those kind of character changing things. Like the overall story is like means nothing. Um, you know, like the amount of stuff that's like life changing in the story for Persona, for example, is not that big. It's not like they're changing the entire world. And I guess technically they kind of are, but like, um, you know, it's very centralized in like a small town or something, or a school or something like that. Whereas like SMT is like the entire world is being changed by your actions here. Like you're changing the entirety of the kind of concept of how the world works, how the universe is made. It's like a much larger scale. So that having like, I mean, having the characters is fun. It's interesting. It's the characters are good, um, but you know, it's not something I incredibly care about for this game because I'm more interested in the overall like impact of my decisions, which is kind of lessened in this. So I think like they do a lot of things that are good with the story. Is it's good. It introduces like an entire new faction, which is like, um, you know, like you have law and chaos, and then there's like a whole new faction, which is like a neutral faction. Um, with neutral faction demons, it's kind of like I, it's Tashin Rengo, which is um, like um, polytheistic gods or something. So the that's a thing. Like, so you have three groups, and like, um, instead of like law versus chaos, you have this kind of three-way battle, which is, it's interesting. It's kind of a cool thing because the previous games don't really do that. Whereas like the character has the option to be neutral, but there's not really a neutral faction. And the neutrality of the neutral faction in this game is not neutral so much as it's like a neutral path because it's not law and not chaos, and not your path either. So there's like, this game is really all about like neutrality. Neutrality is like a big thing in this game, like showing that there's all these different types of neutral, even though like, you know, you can kind of, I think you can only select two. There might, I mean, if there's more, I haven't found a spot yet, but it's possible, I guess. Um, but there are things that happen in the game that are like, um, overall, like, it's. I mean, that's kind of a small story spoiler, that the third group showing up, because it's not right away, but like it's pretty early in the game that it happens, so it's not like a huge spoiler or anything. And it's not a huge thing. It's really not. Yeah, I'm saying that because like it's written on the box, like it's not exactly a secret. It's literally written on the box. So yeah, this video is about an hour. That's probably about right. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff that I wanted to talk about. I took notes, but I stopped taking notes after a while. So like towards the end of the game, which I only finished today, um, it's I stopped taking notes because I figured, oh, I'll remember that stuff, and I'm probably just forgetting it. Um, I don't know. Well, if you've listened to this hour, you're a trooper, I guess, hanging in there. But if you have any questions, like something that I didn't talk about, something that you're like interested in hearing about for the game, feel free to ask in the comments, and I'll comment on them, answer it through the comments, I guess. Um, I think somebody already asked me on Facebook if it's like a new SMT game or if it's like SMP 4.5. It's not really like 4.5 because it does change a lot of stuff. I mean, it involves some characters. It is really like a direct sequel to 4. So if like it's the kind of like Final Fantasy X2 kind of situation where like it's directly connected to the previous game, but in this sense, it totally erases the endings of 4. So it's hard to say, really. I don't know. It's not really like 4.5 so much as it's like 4-2, if that like is a better answer. Beyond that, that's about it. That's all I can think of at the moment. So if you have any questions, um, that's probably it. If I remember anything that nobody asks, I'll probably talk about it later after I play through the game 3 more times. Um, it probably won't take that long. It won't take as long as it did this time because I don't have to be as thorough. So yeah, that's about it. I guess I will see you guys next time I talk about some games. See ya.